Hello everybody, welcome to my channel.
Jimmy Page, the alchemist of rock and the architect of Led Zeppelin's sound. Few musicians have shaped the landscape of modern music as profoundly as Jimmy Page. Guitarist, producer, sonic architect, and visionary, Page stands as one of rock's most influential figures, an artist whose innovations not only defined the sound of Led Zeppelin, but forever changed what the electric guitar could be. Early sparks. A prodigy emerges. Born on January 9, 1944, in Heston, England, James Patrick Page showed an early fascination with sound. He began playing guitar at 12, teaching himself through hours of practice and experimentation. By his teens, Page was already a rising star in London's bustling studio scene, becoming one of the most sought-after session guitarists of the 1960s. From The Who to the Kinks, from Marianne Faithfull to Petula Clark, Page's fingerprints were everywhere, even if not always publicly credited. This period sharpened his precision, versatility, and instinct for arrangement, skills that would later fuel his legendary output. The Yardbirds and the birth of a vision. Page joined the Yardbirds in 1966, initially on bass before switching to guitar. The band's increasingly experimental direction offered him a chance to push boundaries with distortion, feedback, and exotic scales. By the time the Yardbirds dissolved in 1968, Page was determined to build a new group, one with unprecedented musical power. That dream became Led Zeppelin. Led Zeppelin, reinventing rock with Robert Plant, John Bonham, and John Paul Jones. Page formed a band that blended blues, folk, hard rock, Eastern music, and mysticism. Their chemistry was explosive. Page served not only as guitarist but also primary producer, shaping each Zeppelin album with meticulous care. A signature sound. Jimmy Page's groundbreaking techniques helped define Zeppelin's identity. Riffs that shook rock, Whole Lotta Love, Black Dog, Heartbreaker, and countless more. Layered guitar orchestration, multi-track harmonies that created massive soundscapes. Experimental recording, distance miking, reverse echo, alternative tunings. Acoustic elegance. Going to California, The Rain Song, Braun Our Stomp. Epic compositions. Stairway to Heaven, arguably the most iconic rock song ever recorded. Page's playing fused raw power with mystical charm, moving seamlessly from delicate folk fingerpicking to roaring electric fury. The magus of the guitar, often called a guitar wizard, Page embraced that identity wholeheartedly. Influenced by blues legends like Muddy Waters and Elmore James, he combined their emotional grit with British folk, Indian scales, and his own experimental flair. His use of a violin bow on electric guitar, a theatrical but richly sonic technique, became one of his trademarks. On stage, Page was both showman and sorcerer, draped in dragon-embroidered outfits, coaxing strange and beautiful sounds from his Gibson Les Paul. After Led Zeppelin, legacy continues. When Led Zeppelin ended after John Bonham's death in 1980, Page continued to create, though more selectively. Collaborations with Paul Rodgers in the firm The Page Plant reunion projects in the 1990s, the acclaimed Celebration Day reunion performance in 2007, remastering and curating Zeppelin's catalog with extraordinary care. Although he has recorded less frequently in recent decades, Page remains deeply respected as a curator of rock history, a guardian of Zeppelin's legacy, and an enduring symbol of musical innovation. A monumental legacy. Jimmy Page is not just a guitarist, he is a cultural landmark. His riffs are studied like scripture, his solos are legendary rites of passage for musicians. His production work continues to influence studios worldwide. He turned the guitar into an instrument of mythology, emotion, and vast sonic exploration. More than half a century after Zeppelin roared into the world, Jimmy Page's magic still reverberates, loud, timeless, and unmistakably his. Jimmy Page, the mastermind behind the legend, extended edition. Jimmy Page's influence is woven into the very Jimmy Page, the mastermind behind the legend, extended edition. Jimmy Page's influence is woven into the very fabric of rock music. To understand why he stands among the greatest musicians of all time, one must look deeper, not just at his riffs and recordings, but at his creative philosophy, work ethic, and relentless pursuit of sonic innovation. The studio virtuoso, London's secret weapon during the early to mid-1960s, the London recording scene operated like a tight, insular world. Producers knew that when they needed a guitarist capable of anything, blistering blues, bright pop, intricate folk, they could call Jimmy Page. He played on hundreds of sessions. Though many recordings did not credit him by name, Page is believed to have contributed to works by The Who, I Can't Explain, Session, The Kinks, Them with Van Morrison, Dave Barry, Marianne Faithfull, Brenda Lee, Joe Cocker. His adaptability made him invaluable. In the studio he developed unshakable timing, a deep understanding of arrangement, the ability to craft hooks instantly a producer's brain long before he became one. These skills would later define Led Zeppelin's sound. The Yardbirds, a crucible of ideas. Page entered the Yardbirds during a period of massive experimentation in music. Psychedelia was on the rise, blues was being electrified, and rock guitarists were searching for new ways to stand out. Alongside Jeff Beck, Page helped turn the band into a laboratory of sound. Techniques he explored during this period included fuzz distortion before it was mainstream, feedback control used musically rather than accidentally, exotic scales influenced by Indian and Middle Eastern music, guitar, both theatrics later made famous. With Led Zeppelin, these innovations hinted at something bigger, ideas that needed a new band to fully bloom. The founding of Led Zeppelin, a perfect storm in 1968, with the Yardbirds dissolved, Page needed musicians who could match his ambition. What he found was a dream lineup. Robert Plant, a young singer with a roaring blues voice, golden hair, and an otherworldly charisma. John Bonham, a drummer with terrifying power, deep groove, and a signature attack that could shake arenas. John Paul Jones, a multi-instrumentalist genius whose versatility grounded the band's wildest ideas. From the first rehearsal, the chemistry was explosive. Page later said the moment they played "Train Kept a Rollin'," he knew they were a force of nature. The Page production philosophy. Every Led Zeppelin album was built on Page's meticulous production approach. His techniques included 1. Distance microphone recording. Rather than placing mics close to the amp, Page placed them far away to capture room ambiance, creating a massive and natural sound. 2. Layered guitar orchestration. Page recorded multiple guitar tracks, sometimes a dozen, creating harmonized walls of sound that felt both heavy and lush. 3. Acoustic and electric fusion. Unlike many rock bands, Led Zeppelin blended electric thunder with delicate folk. This dynamic contrast was central to their identity. 4. Studio as an instrument. Page saw the studio as a place of magic, using reverse echo, phasing, speeding techniques, alternative tunings, and spatial tricks long before they became mainstream. Iconic songs and the Page imprint. Stairway to Heaven, often regarded as the greatest rock song ever recorded. Its gentle beginning, mystical lyrics, and explosive solo represent Page at his most visionary. Kashmir, built on a hypnotic, Middle Eastern-inspired riff. Page called it one of Zeppelin's monolithic creations. Whole Lotta Love. Its riff has been described as the DNA of hard rock. Page's use of the theremin and echo chamber in the breakdown was groundbreaking. Achilles' Last Stand, a 10-minute epic featuring layered guitars, blazing speed, and relentless energy. Page at his most intense. The Rain Song, a masterpiece of beauty and nuance. Page composed it partly in response to a comment that Zeppelin never wrote ballads. The live legend. While Page was a brilliant studio creator, his stage presence elevated him to mythic status. The double-neck guitar, his iconic Gibson EDS 1275, allowed him to perform Stairway to Heaven, live without switching instruments, making him instantly recognizable in rock imagery. The dragon suit, his embroidered suits, especially the dragon outfit, became visual symbols of rock mysticism. Improvisational mastery. Each Zeppelin concert was unique. Songs could stretch 20 to 30 minutes, shifting into blues jams, Indian-influenced passages, or psychedelic explorations. For Page, live performance was about risk, energy, and transcendence. After Zeppelin reinvention and preservation. Following John Bonham's death in 1980, Page stepped back but continued to explore music through selective projects. The Firm, with Paul Rodgers, soundtrack work, including Death Wish 2. The Coverdale-Page collaboration. Page and Plant tours and albums. In the 1990s, the 2007 Zeppelin reunion at London's O2 Arena. He also spent years remastering and expanding the Led Zeppelin catalog, ensuring the music would sound its best for future generations. The man behind the myth. Despite his fame, Page remains intensely private. He is passionate about architecture and historical buildings, collecting rare instruments, occult history, and Aleister Crowley's writings, preserving audio fidelity, mentoring younger musicians. He continues to be a revered figure, often described as mysterious, soft-spoken, and deeply dedicated to craft. The eternal legacy of Jimmy Page. Jimmy Page didn't just play the guitar, he redefined it. He didn't just form a band, he engineered a revolution. He didn't just write songs, he built sonic monuments. More than 50 years after Led Zeppelin's debut, Page's riffs echo everywhere, in stadiums, in film soundtracks, on radio stations, and in the hands of countless guitarists who see him as the ultimate inspiration. His legacy is not merely historical, it is alive, continually reawakening each time someone picks up a guitar and tries to chase the lightning he unleashed. Jimmy Page. Beyond the Legend, Extended Deep Dive. Jimmy Page's career is a tapestry woven from discipline, instinct, curiosity, and mystery. To understand his full impact, we must explore the hidden stories behind the songs, his philosophies on sound, and the cultural aura that surrounds him. Guitars of the Magician. Tools of his sonic sorcery. Page's tone is instantly recognizable, and much of it comes from his deep connection to his instruments. Every guitar he used became part of his mythology. 1. Gibson Les Paul Standard, No. 1 1959, his Excalibur. This was his primary guitar for decades, known for its warm sustain and expressive bite. Page modified the wiring, allowing for coil splitting and out-of-phase sounds. 2. Gibson Les Paul Standard, No. 2 1959, used extensively live, with even more custom wiring, giving Page an enormous palette of tones. 3. Fender Telecaster, the Dragon Tele, given to him by Jeff Beck. Page hand-painted a psychedelic dragon on it. This guitar recorded Stairway to Heaven, the entirety of Led Zeppelin's debut album, and many Yardbirds tracks. 4. Gibson EDS 1275 Double Neck, one of rock's most iconic instruments, allowed Page to switch between the 12-string acoustic like Shimmer and the 6-string attack in songs like Stairway, The Song Remains the Same, and The Rain Song, seamlessly. 5. Dan Electro 59 used for Kashmir, White Summer, and In My Time of Dying. Its slightly raw, nasal tone suited Eastern scales and open tunings. 6. Acoustic guitars. Page loved acoustic textures. His Martins and Guilds appear on Babe I'm Gonna Leave You, Black Mountain Side, Braun Our Stomp, and many more. The diversity of his guitars reflects the diversity of Zeppelin's sound. The Page philosophy, mystery, distance, and imagination. Jimmy Page often said, I always wanted music to have mystery, to make you lean in and listen. To Page, music wasn't meant to explain itself. It was meant to feel like a doorway into another realm. Recording secrets. Page popularized reverse echo, echo before the sound itself, extreme distance miking, multiple layered solos, unusual tunings, dadgad, open G, open C, open D variants, tape splicing experiments, orchestral mixing techniques applied to rock. These were not common before Page made them mainstream. The art of the riff. How Page built rock's golden foundation. Page's riffs are a universe of their own. They are catchy, technically smart, and emotionally primal. Blueprints of a Page riff. Simplicity with intention, whole lotta love, is minimal but unforgettable. Unexpected rhythm placement. Black Dog is actually in straight time. The trick is that Page plays over the bar line. Blues foundations twisted into new shapes. Heartbreaker and The Lemon Song draw heavily from blues but evolve beyond it. Eastern melodies and modal scales. Kashmir, Friends, Over the Hills and Far Away. Orchestrated riffs, layered harmonies. 10 Years Gone, Achilles' Last Stand. No other guitarist blended so many riff styles so effortlessly. The violin bow. From experiment to trademark. Tracing the origins of Page's bow technique, he saw a cello bow used on guitar in a 1960s avant-garde performance. Page experimented alone for years, refining harmonics and feedback control. By the time of the Yardbirds and Zeppelin, he turned the bow into a spectacle. Lights, echo, theremin, dramatic ambience. On stage, it felt like a ritual, a summoning of sound, rather than merely playing it. The occult, Aleister Crowley, and the Page mystique. Jimmy Page's interest in magic and symbolism added another layer to his myth. What's true? He collected rare occult books. He purchased Aleister Crowley's former house, Boleskine House, near Loch Ness. Many Zeppelin symbols were influenced by ancient mysticism. Page saw magic as a metaphor for creativity and energy, not as dark practice. What's exaggerated? Myths about curses or supernatural events. Rumors that Zeppelin made deals with dark forces. These are rock folklore. Page himself said, if you're interested in the metaphysical, people assume it's something sinister. In reality, it's about curiosity and imagination. Behind the music, rare stories and lesser-known moments. 1. Stairway to Heaven was mostly improvised on the spot. Page composed the framework at Braun Our Cottage. Plant wrote much of the final lyrical flow in the studio, spontaneously. 2. Kashmir took 3 years to complete. The orchestral arrangement, unusual tuning, and rhythmic cycles required massive experimentation. 3. Page produced more Zeppelin songs in hotel rooms than in studios. He carried a small recorder everywhere, capturing ideas at odd hours. 4. He saved Zeppelin's early US tour when amplifiers failed. Page rewired and reconfigured them himself. 5. Page nearly joined The Who before Pete Townsend fully settled in the band's lineup. Page was considered as a guitarist, but chose the studio instead. The cultural impact. Why Page still matters. Jimmy Page's influence is everywhere. Metal musicians emulate his heaviness. Indie folk artists emulate his acoustic textures. Producers study his recording innovations. Guitarists obsess over his tone, phrasing, and feel. Fashion borrowed his flamboyant, embroidered look. Myth-making in rock follows his blueprint, mystery, intensity, and magnetism. He shaped not only how music sounds, but how it feels. The legend today, Jimmy Page, now older and more selective, remains a guardian of music history, a meticulous archivist of Zeppelin's legacy, a respected elder statesman of rock, a mentor and inspiration to generations of musicians, a figure of quiet wisdom and philosophical reflection even without new albums. His presence is felt everywhere. He is one of rock's last true alchemists. Jimmy Page, the architect of immortality, Ultra Extended Edition. Jimmy Page's legacy is vast. But understanding him fully means exploring the many layers of his artistry: the bandleader, the producer, the seeker of mysticism, the sonic engineer, and the quiet, introspective craftsman behind one of the loudest bands in history. Below is an even deeper expansion. Childhood and the early quest for sound. Jimmy Page grew up in a working-class family. Yet from a young age, he showed a fascination with music and how sound worked. His earliest memory of the guitar was not playing it, it was being intrigued by it. A guitar found. A calling discovered at 12, Page discovered a guitar accidentally left behind at a new house. He later said, "It felt like a piece of the universe that belonged to me." Without formal lessons, he devoured American blues records, trying to mimic every bend, slide, and inflection. Muddy Waters, B.B. King, and Elmore James became his first teachers. Early TV appearance as a teenager. Page even appeared on British television's All Your Own, performing skiffle music. He shyly told the interviewer he wanted to do research to find a cure for cancer, if music didn't work out. Music, however, worked out perfectly. The studio years, precision, discipline, and mastery. In his late teens and early 20s, Page became arguably the most in-demand studio guitarist in London. Why producers loved him: he could play anything immediately. He read music well enough to follow charts. He could invent hooks on the spot. He always arrived prepared. He was fast, saving studios money. A teenage powerhouse, he played on sessions that were foundational to British pop. Many of these were anonymous, but each sharpened his technical skill and developed his producer's ear. This period turned Page into a meticulous craftsman, the foundation for the sonic genius of Led Zeppelin. 3. The Yardbirds. Fire, experimentation, and evolution. Joining the Yardbirds gave Page his first taste of being a guitar pioneer on a public stage. Key innovations from this era: bowed guitar performances with stage lights creating eerie silhouettes, early flirtation with Eastern scales using feedback and distortion as musical tools, experimentation with alternative tunings, precision double tracking of guitar parts. The Yardbirds were a training ground. But Page wanted a band that didn't just play interesting music, he wanted a band that changed music. The birth of Led Zeppelin. A revolution begins when the Yardbirds collapsed. Jimmy Page was left with both a mission and a name for a new project, the New Yardbirds. But by the time the lineup solidified, Page knew this was something far bigger. The name soon changed. Led Zeppelin. The chemistry of the gods. The lineup remains one of the greatest in music history. Robert Plant, the Golden God with a banshee voice; John Bonham, thunder incarnate on drums; John Paul Jones, genius arranger, bassist, and multi-instrumentalist; Jimmy Page, the mastermind, producer, sonic architect from the very first rehearsal. Page later said, "I knew instantly this band would be special. Monumental." Album by album, Page's mastery in action. Led Zeppelin 1, 1969, recorded in just 30 hours. Page financed the sessions himself, giving him complete creative control. Highlights: Dazed and Confused, bowed solos, haunting ambience, Good Times Bad Times, Bonham's legendary triplets, Babe I'm Gonna Leave You, acoustic electric contrast, here. Page introduced the world to his signature, Light and Shade. Led Zeppelin II, 1969, recorded on the road, assembled from touring tapes, hotel rooms, and fragments. Highlights. Whole Lotta Love, psychedelic breakdown produced with tape manipulation. Heartbreaker, one of the most famous unaccompanied guitar solos. Bring It On Home, raw blues thunder. This album set the blueprint for hard rock and heavy metal. Led Zeppelin III, 1970, Page embraced acoustic textures after retreating to Bron-yr-Aur Cottage in Wales. Highlights. Immigrant Song, Viking War Cry riff, Gallows Pole, folk revival with escalating tension. Since I've Been Loving You, Page's blues at its emotion peak, critics were confused. Fans later hailed it as genius. Led Zeppelin IV, 1971, one of the most legendary albums ever made. It has no official title, just 4 symbols, including Page's so-so. Highlights. Stairway to Heaven, the ultimate anthem, Black Dog, rhythmically tricky riffing, When the Levee Breaks, massive drum sound thanks to Page's distance mic technique, Rock and Roll, a tribute to early rock influences. This album made Led Zeppelin mythological. Houses of the Holy, 1973, exotic, colorful, rhythmic. Highlights. The song remains the same, the Rain Song, no quarter. Here, Page expanded his sonic palette into dreamy, layered textures. Physical Graffiti, 1975, a double album masterpiece. Many consider it Zeppelin's peak. Highlights. Kashmir, modal riff masterpiece. 10 Years Gone, layered emotional guitar orchestration. The Rover, In My Time of Dying. This album cemented Page as a composer of monumental scope. Presence, 1976, created in adversity while Plant was recovering from a car crash. Highlights. Achilles' Last Stand, one of the greatest Zeppelin songs, Nobody's Fault But Mine, ferocious blues revival. Page describes this as one of his proudest achievements. The song remains the same. Live, 1976, a snapshot of Zeppelin's improvisational power. Page stretches songs into long, mystical journeys. In Through the Outdoor, 1979, the last studio album before Zeppelin's end. Page was battling addiction at the time, and John Paul Jones took more creative control. Highlights. In the Evening, All My Love, the album shows a more keyboard-driven Zeppelin, but still carries Page's signature presence. The live experience. Page the Shaman Led Zeppelin concerts were unlike anything before or since. Page live characteristics: bowed guitar rituals, extended improvisations, theremin battles, stage outfits embroidered with occult and mythical symbols, a combination of ferocity and vulnerability in his playing on stage. Page wasn't just performing, he was summoning. The bond with John Bonham. Thunder and Lightning. Jimmy Page and John Bonham shared one of the most powerful musical connections in rock history. Why they worked so well: both loved groove-heavy blues, both loved experimentation, both could improvise instinctively, both shared deep personal respect. When Bonham played something unexpected, Page reacted instantly. Their interplay made songs like Kashmir and Whole Lotta Love seismic. Bonham's death in 1980 devastated Page. He said, "It was like losing a brother. There was no point in continuing the band." 8. The 80s to 2000s. Reinvention, struggles, and legacy building. After Zeppelin ended, Page's journey became more introspective. Notable projects: Death Wish 2 soundtrack, The Firm with Paul Rodgers, Outrider, solo work, Coverdale Page, The Extraordinary Page and Plant reunions in the 1990s. The Guardian of Zeppelin. Page dedicated immense energy to remastering the Zeppelin catalog. He personally supervised remasters, bonus content, archival preservation, Celebration Day, 2007 reunion concert release. His mission: ensure Zeppelin's music would live forever in pristine quality. Jimmy Page today. Sage, historian, enigma now in his later years, Page enjoys a quieter life. He is known for protecting and curating Zeppelin's legacy, rare but powerful public appearances, collaborating on documentaries, maintaining an impressive collection of guitars and historical artifacts. Living in the iconic Tower House in London, which he restored meticulously, he remains beloved and respected, one of the great philosophers of music. The timeless legacy of Jimmy Page. Jimmy Page didn't just influence rock music, he defined it, redefined it, and elevated it into art. He is a riff architect, a recording trailblazer, a visionary producer, a live performance icon, a creative mystic, a master of musical contrast, a preserver of history, a symbol of artistic bravery. Page's work transcends decades. It transcends genre. It transcends fashion and trends. His music remains alive, electric, magical, eternal. Jimmy Page, the Infinite Architect, ultimate deep dive continuation. Jimmy Page's story is not just the story of a guitarist. It is the story of a visionary who rewired the foundations of modern music. To go deeper, we explore the hidden dimensions of his craft, the rarely told histories, and the creative principles that shaped Led Zeppelin's immortal sound. 11. The secret language of Jimmy Page's tunings. Page's mastery wasn't limited to riffs and solos. He understood that changing tunings could open entirely new worlds of sound. Below are some of his most important tunings and their role in legendary songs. 1. Dadgad, White Summer, Black Mountainside, Kashmir, a tuning borrowed from Celtic folk traditions. Creates drone-like resonance perfect for Eastern modal scales, integrates beautifully with orchestral textures. Kashmir is the quintessential example, hypnotic, powerful, rhythmic, an anthem built on modal tension. 2. Open G, In My Time of Dying, slide-friendly, blues-rooted, raw. The entire performance feels like a ritual invocation of the blues spirit. 3. Open A, Open D, That's the Way, Going to California, used frequently for delicate acoustic textures. These tunings gave Zeppelin their unmistakable English countryside sound. 4. Standard tuning mastery, Black Dog, Heartbreaker, Whole Lotta Love. Even in standard tuning, Page found hidden doors. Black Dog alone is a rhythmic riddle wrapped in a rock riff. 5. Unusual hybrids. The Rain Song, Bronwyn Our Stomp. The Rain Song uses a complex tuning that allowed Page to create chords that shimmer with emotion. Plant once said, "No one else could write a song like The Rain Song. Only Jimmy." 12. Tonal alchemy. Page's amps, pedals, and sound philosophy. Jimmy Page didn't chase gear, he chased sound. Key components of his tone. 1. The Supro amplifier used for many early Zeppelin tracks. Its warm growl gave Page's riffs their distinct grit. 2. Marshall amplifiers for live shows. Nothing else could match the power. 3. Echoplex provided swirling, echoing ambience. Essential for bow sections, improvised solos, dazed and confused, live versions. 4. Wah pedal used tastefully, often more for texture than for funk. 5. Tone bender fuzz, part of the monstrous tone on Led Zeppelin 1 and 2. 6. Page's philosophy of tone. He believed, tone is in the hands, not the gear. He could make anything sound huge. Imperfection creates character. He often kept takes where strings buzzed or notes weren't clean, because they felt real. Dynamics matter more than volume. Light and shade were his core principles. 13. Inside the studio. Page's creative rituals. Page was often the first in the studio and the last to leave. He treated recording like a spiritual practice. His studio habits: he recorded with the lights dimmed to create atmosphere. He preferred to track parts quickly to retain energy. He layered guitars meticulously, sometimes building a choir of harmonies. He experimented with mic placement obsessively. He used stairwells, hallways, and open rooms as natural echo chambers. A famous example: when the levee breaks, the thunderous drum sound wasn't created with effects. Page captured it by placing mics far up a staircase at Headley Grange. It became one of the most sampled drum sounds in music history. 14. Rare anecdotes from Page's journey. 1. The broken string miracle. During a 1971 concert in Dublin, Page broke a string mid-solo. He kept going, improvising flawlessly on 5 strings. Plant turned to the crowd and shouted, "He can do anything." 2. The Stairway solo. One take. The iconic solo was not pre-written. Page recorded multiple improvised takes. The one that ended up on the album? The very first take. 3. Page once played bass for the Rolling Stones during a session in the late 60s. Bill Wyman was late. Page filled in. The Stones nearly asked him to join full-time. 4. Page's library rivaled universities. His private collection of rare music books, folklore, history, and occult texts reportedly contains thousands of volumes unavailable anywhere else. 5. The quiet generosity. Though seen as mysterious, Page is known in private circles for his kindness. He has anonymously funded music programs, charity auctions, and restoration projects. 15. The spiritual lens. Page's mysticism and symbolism. Page's interest in metaphysics wasn't about shock value, it was about understanding creativity and energy. Key principles Page believed in. Every artistic act has intention. Symbols can shape consciousness. Music is a form of magic. His famous so-so symbol remains widely debated. Page never fully explained it, saying, "It means what it means." Which was exactly the point. Mystery creates curiosity. Curiosity creates connection. 16. The inner personality. Who Jimmy Page really is. Behind the myth, Jimmy Page is thoughtful, soft-spoken, detail-oriented, intellectual, private, emotionally sensitive, intensely dedicated to music. He dislikes fame for fame's sake. He prefers craftsmanship, history, and authenticity. Many people who spoke with him describe him the same way: gentle, brilliant, mysterious, and always listening. Page listens deeply. That's why he plays deeply. 17. Why Jimmy Page still matters. Jimmy Page changed the world because he did something few musicians ever do. He expanded rock music into mythology. He made riffs that feel like runes. He made solos that feel like spells. He made albums that feel like talismans. He made concerts that felt like rituals. He made the guitar into a portal. And for millions of fans and musicians, he opened that portal permanently. Jimmy Page is a once-in-a-century artist. A true sonic alchemist. A creator whose work will never fade.
Bye bye. Thanks for watching. Bye.